So good morning or good middle of the day or good evening, depending on where you are. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Luke Mulcahy. I'm the Solution Architect at FLEXdata Solutions. I'm also a Director and kind of founding member of FlexData. We've been running since 2003. Just to get us underway, I'm going to be talking about enhancing our managed service efficiencies. We use Runecast as one of the tools to help us provide managed services more effectively and efficiently than we could do otherwise. It's not the only tool we use. It's not the only process we use. And we're going to talk through a little bit about what we do. And I think what we do is very relevant to a lot of end user organizations and other managed service providers, because the way we provide managed services is a little bit different than some of the other larger organizations. So a little bit of an overview of FlexStarter, just so you can understand where we are. We're based in Brisbane in Australia. That's probably a very long way away from where many of you might be sitting right at the moment. And that's a shot I took today of the city with the sun out. It's coming into summer, so it's a nice part of the world to be in at this time of year. FlexStarter really works to help organizations assess, plan, build, integrate, optimize, and support mission critical ICT infrastructure. So that infrastructure could be on-premise, it could be in co-location data centers, it could be integrated with private or hyperscale cloud for hybrid cloud environments. Fundamentally, that infrastructure in whatever form it is supporting data services, applications, and we really focus on assisting clients to get the most that they can, keep those systems and services up and running, and to run their own systems as efficiently and effectively as possible. There's a number of different technology organizations that we work with. This isn't the full list, but these are some of our core partners. Obviously, we see Runecast in there. It's been a key part of helping us provide some of these services more effectively and efficiently. And we'll talk a little bit about how it's allowing us to do that. We are set up as what we call a traditional systems integrator. So we do a lot of project work. So clients might buy some VMware and some NetApp and some Cisco servers, and they might need to plug it all together and migrate their services onto there, and they might need to integrate that with AWS services, and they might need to put some Hyper-V and some O365, and they might need some Veeam across the top to back it up, or Rubrik or some other technology. We help them do that. And we can do that in a whole number of different ways. So we typically will scope a project and we'll help them deliver it, and we'll train their end users on the technologies that they've acquired, and we'll help them build some process, and we'll take ownership of that until we get to the end of the scoped project. At the end of that project, we can then provide additional services depending on what the clients might want. They might simply want us to hand over the keys to their operational team, and they'll run on and continue to look after that equipment and that infrastructure for its life cycle. They might want us to come in at a regular basis and run some health checks and some reports and just make sure that the operational teams are actually keeping on top of all of the day-to-day administrative tasks that they need to. They might want us to come in and do what we call the regular grease and oil change. So we will, rather than just have a look and send a report, we will actually get involved in remediation activities. That might be upgrading infrastructure, doing all the tedious upgrades, making sure, all of the trolling through the compatibility lists and making sure everything's done, and submitting all the change forms, and just taking care of that base level infrastructure maintenance component. Or in some cases, they want us to basically take over operations. And we run a number of different managed service approaches where we can take over that operation in part or in full. And one of the key things about our managed service approach is that we are very flexible in how we engage. Now, I know this is all about FLEXdata sitting in Brisbane, Australia right at the moment, but this does tie in to the fact that the way we operate means that is very applicable to all of your clients' teams or your own operational teams, because we don't dictate our way of operating. We work with our clients in whatever way suits them best, whatever suits their business, their requirements, and their objectives. And we effectively become an extension of their operational team. So that presents us some challenges, which we'll talk through, about how we can essentially fit into many different environments. Some are government, some are manufacturing, some are NGO, some are financial, some are regulatory. How do we become part of all of these different organisations' teams and maintain our own efficiencies, deliver our own value back to the client, but also as a business ourselves, be profitable and be successful? The cornerstone of our approach has always been to build strong long-term relationships that are built on trust, teamwork, and successfully or consistently delivering successful outcomes. And the way we do this, or one of the ways that we do this, is that we don't dictate our way. We want to be flexible. We don't want to tell our clients, we'll look after it for you, but it must be done in this way and this way and this way. Or your change windows need to change to suit our operational team. Or you get 100 points worth of changes a month, but we're going to charge you when you ask for the 101th change. We don't operate that way. And we found that we've been very successful with clients that have engaged in the past people to manage their environments, but they have found that they lose their own level of flexibility and their own level of control, and that's our differentiator. We also don't separate our project delivery and our managed service teams. We take a little bit of a DevOps or a continuous improvement cycle approach, so that the people who are out on the field working on the projects in all the different environments that we touch and manage, and all the different ways that the technology can be used and all the different applications and all the different approaches, they're the same people that look after our managed environments. So the learnings and the ways of doing things and the improvements that we come up with and the technical and the IP we develop on our broader projects, we bring that back into our managed service environments where it is relevant. So ultimately, with FLEXdata becoming an extension of the existing operational teams, we have to deal with the same things day to day that every other operational team out there has to deal with. We need to manage and respond to the patching cycles. We need to protect from ransomware. We need to essentially almost change the approach from protection and be prepared for when ransomware hits. We need to manage data retrieval. Now, often with our clients, if a single user deletes a file, it's probably easier for them to deal with it themselves rather than go and raise a ticket and throw it to us. So we might get involved in data retrieval when it's something quite serious or something where we've got to go trawling through a whole bunch of data, potentially for some litigation activities or something else. Disaster recovery, we need to help with that. We need to test that. We need to document it and make sure that if bad things happen, we can keep services and data available. We need to manage reporting to our clients' operational teams, to our clients' managers, to our clients' C-levels, and to our own internal people. We need to sit on change boards. We need to raise changes. We need to justify and present changes. We need to be part of their team as it comes to working through project requirements and timelines, providing our input into what's feasible technically, what's feasible from a scheduling and a financial point of view. We need to manage upgrades. We need to investigate and couch the adaptation and adoption of new technologies into their environment. Process changes, we need to deal with staff changes at our clients and internally as well. We need to deal with all this stuff day to day. But we're doing this as a service. And we need to be successful as a business. And our approach, while beneficial to our customers, presents ourselves with some challenges. Because every environment is different. We have infrastructure technology components that we have more skills in than others. So for example, we do a lot of work with NetApp, but we don't only manage NetApp environments. And the way that, even if it was NetApp, maybe it's fiber channel based, maybe it's iSCSI based, maybe it's supporting VMware, maybe it's supporting Hyper-V, maybe it's supporting a Zen farm. The operations are all different. Everyone's got different procedures. Everyone has different change processes. Everyone has different risk profiles, outage windows. Everyone has different governance, internal governance or external compliance challenges, requirements that they need to meet and report on. Even the reporting of our own environments that we're operationally responsible for are different. Different clients want to see different things in the reports. So there's a lot of customization that we have to do. There's a lot of benefits for having our personnel involved in project work as well as managed service accounts, but it creates some challenges. It can create scheduling challenges. If they're out on a project and a managed service environment has a significant issue, then we're going to have a scheduling challenge, and we're going to need to manage that so that we can get the best outcome for both the managed service and the project client. We have internal billing contentions and billing efforts. Managed services, for all intents, we're going to get a certain amount of money a month, whether we spend a certain number of hours on it or not. And project can overrun if we need to pull resources in and out all the time. So we've got to manage that. Our differentiator to our clients means that doing the bare minimum to keep their environments operational is not good enough. They're not paying us to set and forget. Our differentiator is that they do not come out of the end of a 3-year or a 4-year or a 5-year contract and find that all of their IT systems are 3 or 4 or 5 years behind recommendation. They might still be running, but that's not good enough. So we have some challenges. And the answer, of course, or perhaps the quick throwaway, is that we need to enhance the efficiency with which we can deal with these challenges and ultimately provide a successful service to the customer, but be successful ourselves and remain profitable and be able to pay our staff and do all of the things that we need to do. Ta-da, that's the answer. But okay, how do we actually do that? Now, there is not just one way, but at a very broad level, we can have a look at efficiency and what it means. And it means different things to different people and in different contexts. But in general, at a very generalized point of view, efficiency will mean that we can increase the speed that we can do tasks at, or decrease the time that it takes to do a task. And they're two slightly different, but linked concepts there. We can also increase the quality of what we are doing, and we can increase the quality of the outcome. And that can be done from, for example, by planning and doing things right the first time. Importantly, learning from when we don't get things right and making sure we don't do that. We can increase the quality outcome by proactively avoiding issues. We almost lost a refresh deal because the CIO actually didn't really know who we are. He'd had so many other issues throughout his environment in sort of the previous 12 months that when our contract came around for renewal, he's going, who are FLEXdata? Who are these guys? What do they do? Because we, thankfully, had been able to proactively avoid issues in the areas of responsibility that we had, so that those areas never caused him an issue. Infrastructure services, the VMware environment, backup recovery, disaster recovery services, all that was running so smoothly he didn't even know that it was being looked after. It wasn't on his radar. So we're almost a victim of our own success there. And of course, we can improve efficiencies by decreasing costs. But we need to be able to do that without sacrificing quality. And we could go into another, if people are familiar with the iron concept triangles, we could talk about that. It's a very similar kind of approach here. We could decrease costs by hiring people that don't have any skills in IT. But that's not going to help us on the quality outcome or the speed when things actually need to be done. So this is all great, but as I've discussed, our services are tailored and we need to maintain flexibility. We need to be able to deal with all the different environments. Your own internal operational teams are potentially very similar. You're offering tailored services to your clients, which is the broader business. You need to maintain a level of flexibility to support the broader business's requirements. You can't always make the business accept the way that IT wants to do things. So a couple of ways that we look to enhance efficiency is by automating, of course. It's often the answer to everything. Get a robot to do it, or build a robot to do it, build some scripting, build some things. But we've got to do that selectively. The effort involved versus the reward of automating has to be considered very carefully, especially for the bespoke services that we offer. Automating doesn't always lead to a level of flexibility, and it can lead to a level of conformance that does not always meet what the business requirements are. And so we automate for consistency, not for conformance. When we deploy a volume or we deploy certain things, we want to apply a policy around it. We want to make sure that certain settings are applied, that certain things are done. If there's a whole number of attributes that need to be applied to an IT resource, we want consistency in how that resource is deployed. We don't want everything to be one of three shapes. We don't want it to be conformant to a set cookie cutter approach, because that doesn't work for every single one of our clients. And the effort to try and automate the flexibility isn't worth the reward. We do, and I've spoken about it a little bit, we've worked around leveraging DevOps type philosophies, where we're through a continuous cycle of create, plan, release, monitor, and rolling back around, and using, not having a dedicated managed service team and a dedicated project delivery team aligns into that. We can also bring learnings from the field back into the environments we're responsible for, and vice versa. And so we're continually able to reassess and replan how we're setting things up and how we're leveraging things and where new features are being used as they come out in products and where they will make sense and where they won't. And of course, we look to use tools that can do heavy lifting for us. And there's lots of different tools out there that can lift very heavy things. And Runecast is one of the tools that we use to do heavy lifting for us. So this is a Runecast event. I'm going to speak about Runecast. It's not the only tool that we use. There are different tools for different things. And of course, we need to be careful about how many tools we use, how many monitoring and alerting and notifications and best practice tools you can get overwhelmed with them. You've got to be selective. You've got to pick the ones where you see that you're going to get clear benefits from. It's also important to understand what a tool that you're going to use does and doesn't do. So that's very important. So one of the things Runecast does for us is it saves us time, and it saves us a lot of time. So we've been quantifying this time as we work through timesheets. Early suggestions indicated it would save us across certain tasks about 70% of the time. What we're actually finding is that it's saving us more and more time as we trust it more and we work in and we actually improve the way we're interacting with Runecast a little bit. We're finding it's saving us closer to 85 to 90% of time in a whole lot of different areas. There is an enormous amount of time and effort required to keep up to date with best practices, with knowledge bases, with security breaches, with the logs that are even going on in the actual environment. We have our own internal environment where it's logging and things are happening. And we have different alerts and monitoring that might tell us that things are working well or not working, or there's an issue or not. It's a whole other world to be continually out there understanding is what we're actually running internally, conforming to external best practices. Are we compliant with what we need to be? And we could employ people to do nothing except read white papers, read blogs, read the best practice guides, read the security hardening guides. But we don't have to, because Runecast employ people to do that. And they write the recommendations into the tools. And that saves us an enormous amount of time. It helps us to proactively minimize downtime risks or any outage risks. Anything that could potentially cause a breach or an outage, any kind of bug exposure across these environments is being picked up and reported back to us in near real time. So I always describe Runecast as very much like an antivirus tool. You want to run it across a system that's never had antivirus run across it before. And it might find certain things and you might clean them up. But that doesn't mean that you're compliant and you don't have a virus on your system 2 days later. You need to keep running it. You need to keep checking that you're still compliant. You need to keep checking that the best practices that you set up 3 months ago are still the best practices today, based on what the global community has learned in that 3-month period. Runecast is doing that for you, always. And the cost of downtime is often underestimated. But from our point of view, there's the cost of actually being down, the cost of bringing project resources in to try and help. There's the cost of engaging management to try and engage with our clients' management, to understand the impacts, to smooth that out. There's the ongoing reputational cost, of course. And then there's the ongoing cost as you report back on it. while we do our post-implementation reviews, and we sit down and we work through all of this and we write these documents and we give the full timelines of what went wrong and what could, that takes time, that's cost. You come at the front end and you identify something that could cause an issue and you stamp it out then, it saves an enormous amount of time, enormous amount of cost, enormous amount of disruption. Can all be saved. It helps us with upgrading. And anyone who's worked in any kind of infrastructure, whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform, software, it can be a nightmare trying to work out the dependencies and what does what. I want to stay compliant, so I need to do my switch firmware first, and then I need to come into my storage array and do this, and then I need to go back into this area and this and that and the other. And is it going to work? Runecast really, really helps us with that. We can go straight away and have a look, okay, this environment, VMware 7, is it going to work? Yes or no? Are the infrastructure components supported? Doesn't mean that they're the latest and greatest, but are they supported? Yes, absolutely. It will tell us that in about 5 minutes across the whole environment in a single pass. Simple and quick, enormous amounts of effort being saved. And it allows us to be consistent and, where we need to be, conformant. It allows us to define what FLEXdata feel are best practices. So we can create our own little lists of, we recommend that you set this and don't set that, and don't worry about this and do worry about that. It allows us to do that on a per client basis. It allows us to conform with security and compliance standards. Now there's a whole bunch of these out there. Many of them are US based. There's some European based ones. ISO 27001 released today, maybe yesterday, depending on time zone. We downloaded it today. We've run it against 2 of our environments to see what it comes up with. It's fantastic. There's managed service providers. In the other channel, Dan Frith from Digital Sense is talking. ISO 27001, very important for their organization. That's brand new. So the amount of time for us to be able to go back to our clients and say, hand on heart, guarantee you are compliant with PCI DSS, and here is the report, and we can generate that report in 5 minutes. And then if we're not compliant, we get a list. These are all the things you need to do to fix, and we can work through that. It's fantastic. It saves an enormous amount of effort to have individuals work through and do that manually. So if it's saving us a huge amount of effort, every single operational team out there, it will save effort for. So while FLEXdata run managed services, what we're really doing is we're really an operational team. We're just an operational team on behalf of our clients. So finally, and we start a little late, but I do need to finish on time. Runecast Analyzer helps us enhance efficiency. It saves us time. It saves us money. The quality of what we can provide back to our clients exceeds what we commit to. And that makes our clients happy, and that makes FLEXdata profitable. That's a win-win for everyone, and that's exactly where we want to be. So that's all I had for you. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. I will finish up now, and any questions, post them into the chat. You can email me directly, any questions at all. And I'll endeavour to answer everything in the chat tonight. If not, I think Gabriella will be able to pass it through, and we'll get all those answers out there. So thanks very much for your time, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the event.